Hi, my name's Rachel, and I finally tried reading a book by Colleen Hoover. Yes, this is my first one ever. I'm here to tell you about it. For my first foray into the terrible trenches of Colleen Hoover books, I decided to go with Ugly Love because I've watched so many rants of It Ends With Us, so I already know what happens. So I'm trying to forget about that before I read that book and review it. But it seems to me that the trend is when Colleen does write what she considers romance books to be, she's really just writing about two boring people who can't communicate. That's this book summed up. This book's issue could have been solved with an email, but the protagonists are seemingly allergic to basic conversation. What could have helped these people is using something that my husband Carlos and I have been using, the Paired app, which is today's sponsor. Carlos actually saw the Paired app mentioned in another YouTube video, and I was like, say less. I love this kind of stuff. It's a fun and easy to use app for couples of all ages, no matter how long you've been together, that uses games, fun quizzes, and research-based questions to help you and your partner build and strengthen your relationship. Much of what they feature centers building strong communication, which is something that I wish the protagonists of today's book had been able to figure out. But it's something that Carlos and I have had to learn over the past 16 years that we have been together. Yes, that's not a joke. Carlos and I actually both today took one of their quizzes. We took the awkward moments one, which is a you or me quiz, like who does this more. This one was like, which one of us is more likely to do embarrassing stuff, like accidentally say I love you at the end of the work call. And I said me and he said him. I think that this just goes to show that we are perfectly matched in our awkwardness. We got 50% on this quiz because we kept saying, no, that's me. I love that the Paired app has everything organized for you on whatever topic you might want to focus in on regarding communication. So whether you want to improve communication around conflict solving or sex and intimacy or money and finances or homework balance, the Paired app has research-based ways to get you and your partner there using super fun games and quizzes and questions. Paired Premium has even more to offer. They have great question packs, relationship check-ins, pathways to learning emotional intelligence. All of these are small but impactful ways to build communication and intimacy with your partner. Carlos and I both have full-time jobs and we have kids, which can make communication and even getting time together at all very difficult. But the Paired app has made it easy for Carlos and I to make time for each other in an easy but meaningful and fun way, even when we aren't in the same room. So whether you're hoping to learn about a new partner of yours, or you're like me and continuing to learn communication skills with your partner of 16 years, click my link in the description to get a 7-day free trial and 25% off of Paired Premium so you can maintain and deepen your connection with your partner. My God, I wish that our main characters had just used this. Then we could have just not had this book. Okay, Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Our main characters are Miles and Tate. Tate is the woman, Miles is the guy. They're about 22, 23 years old. We begin with Tate arriving at her apartment, her new apartment that she's going to share with her brother who already lives there in San Francisco. She is riding up the elevator with an old man whose job it is to push the buttons on the elevator. Her brother is a pilot, her brother's friend is a pilot, her dad was a pilot. Her grandpa was a pilot. Everybody's a pilot. Cap is a pilot of the elevator, not of planes. She arrives at her brother's apartment and she can't get in because there's a drunk guy outside of her door. This drunk man is our love interest. His name is Miles. She calls her brother and he's like, well, I think that that's Miles, so you can just let him into the apartment and let him sleep on the couch. So she lets him into the apartment and he calls her Rachel. And that was strike one against this book.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
She's like, I'm not Rachel, I'm Tate. And then she's like, I don't know why I'm correcting him. And I'm like, yeah, me either. He's a drunk guy. Just don't talk to drunk men. And he says, I'm sorry, Rachel. You hate me so much. True, bitch. I do. Leave me out of this. She puts this drunk man to bed on her new couch. Well, it's not new to her. It's new to her. It's not new to her brother. And it says, I have the strange urge to touch a 4-inch long scar on the side of his cheek. Now, this woman is a nurse, and you would think that she would think like normal nurse things, like, wow, that wasn't stitched properly. No, she just is a nurse because otherwise, you know, she would look even less like an actual person. But Colleen Hoover isn't really about making well-cultivated characters. 6 years ago in the past, we get Miles' POV. He's in high school. He's about to turn 18. He's at school, and he meets a new student at school who just moved there from Phoenix, and her name is Rachel. And he is immediately obsessed with her and thinks in his brain, but at her, I'm gonna fall in love with you, Rachel. Bitch, if you don't back up. He texts his friends to say that this teenage girl is going to have his babies. And again, I would like a restraining order. In the present, he wakes up and he asks her, which we're back in her POV. This is in first person, by the way. Isn't that terrible for me? He asks did we have sex? And she's like, no. And she's mad that she's attracted to him, which is a bad sign for me. And she thinks I'm still waiting for the thank you I never got for helping him when he was drunk. And I'm like, well, you're probably not going to get one. He's really annoying and gets drunk and then stays outside of other people's apartments. He's kind of shit, so maybe just accept he's shit and leave. Instead, she stares at him and says things in her head that are so astronomically stupid, I wanted to crawl into the abyss. It's as if two different creators were involved when he was made. What? Yeah, that's normally how parentage works, you weirdo. Anyway, she's immediately obsessed with him. 6 years ago, in Miles' POV, his dad calls him while he's at his friend Ian's house. And he's like, come home immediately. This is super important. And the important thing that his dad needs to tell him is, I'm having my new girlfriend over for dinner. And it turns out that his new girlfriend, who shows up, is Rachel's mom. And then he thinks to himself, oh, I think that this woman and my dad were fucking before my mom died. And personally, I don't care. So Rachel's at his front door and he says to himself, but at her in his brain, I can't fall in love with you, Rachel. I can tell you on behalf of Rachel's everywhere, I'm relieved. He's like, Rachel's eyes are so sad. The saddest eyes I've ever seen. I've closed the door. It's the saddest door I've ever closed.
I closed the door.
Which door?
The door to the microwave. What is wrong with you?
Jail. Colleen Hoover, you need to go straight to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Jail. I don't want to be involved in this, and neither did the door. We both deserved better. I have read door smut better than this. The stylistic choice, I shouldn't even put it in quotes, it is a stylistic choice. The stylistic choice being made here is to make very stilted, abrupt dialogue, and it doesn't do anything for the story. I know that Colleen feels like this is a big brain move. It's terrible. It's so repetitive and redundant. It doesn't do anything. What is the opposite of verbose prose? I heard it's called beige. This is more beige than beige can get. This is stilted, abrupt dialogue that repeats, like the way that Sarah J. Maas starts her books. It was cold, ice cold, the cold of death. That's the whole book. And I already have an issue with when Sarah does that at the beginning of books. Colleen does it for the entire book. It's terrible. And a lot of the descriptions in here are so blunt and compacted, and they're repeated a bunch. I know that this is a stylistic choice, and I'm telling you that it's a bad one. It doesn't do anything good for this book. It honestly makes it sound as if this were written by a robot trying to emulate what that robot thinks people think like, because this is very introspective, but in a way that is not human whatsoever. She's in school to be a CRNA, which is a nurse with a master's degree. Now this is a like 9.5 hour audiobook, and this is completely irrelevant to the entire book. Her being a nurse does not inform any part of who this woman is, because this woman is not a woman. This woman is a cardboard cutout who only exists to have feelings for a man who is emotionally unavailable. That's this book. These are not people. And honestly, if this woman were a nurse, I'd be very concerned, because she's really stupid. She thinks things like, he's so tall. He didn't seem tall earlier. Now that he's in my doorway, he's really tall. Wow, how tall is he? And she wants him to kiss her. And it says, something's going on in my chest, a kind of flutter thing. I don't like it. Wow, great writing. Thank you for that, Colleen. So she talks to him about his friend Dylan, and he says, Dylan is not my friend, because apparently her brother, Dylan, Ian, his friend from high school, who still hangs out with Miles, and her brother Corbin all hang out at Corbin's apartment to watch football once in a while. And this whole Dylan is not my friend is sort of channeling,
I'm not gonna call him dad, even if there's a fire.
And she's like, why doesn't Miles ever smile? I don't know, probably toxic masculinity. Who fucking cares? He's just some guy who was drunk outside your apartment. Move on, ma'am. So because they are being loud watching football, she hangs out in his apartment because men are annoying, and she has nursing school homework. And she gets into his apartment, she's like, his apartment isn't decorated. I bet women never come in here. I want to take my credit card and decorate it. And I'm like, ma'am, please just do your homework and shut the fuck up. Who cares that his apartment isn't decorated? So she washes his dishes and drinks some of his orange juice. So when he comes back, she's like, I'm so sorry, I was thirsty. And he says, I don't care if you drink my juice, Tate. And she thinks to herself, wow, that was an oddly sexy sentence.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Was it? Was it? Was it? He says that Dylan, his not friend,
Even if there's a fire.
is an asshole who has no respect for his wife. And she's like, Miles doesn't want me to like Dylan. I like that Miles doesn't want me to like Dylan. Why is it written like this? And I kept waiting for it to stop being written like this, where it's like redundancies. It never stopped. This book, again, it could have been an email, but it also could have been a short story about neighbors fucking each other. Seriously. Then he takes off his shirt, because of course he does, and it says, oh my god, god, he has the V, the muscles pointing down like towards a bullseye. And I just want to say that we are on chapter 3 currently. We have done no character work for her. We have only done, here's all the weird thoughts in my head I have about my neighbor who was drunk outside my apartment that I'm now obsessed with. That's it. I don't know who this woman is. Back in 6 years ago in the past, we're back in Miles' POV, and it says, I look back at Rachel. Rachel looks at me. I can't fall in love with you, Rachel. Her eyes are sad. My thoughts are sadder. I cannot believe that this is a best-selling novel with prose like this. Those are inside, like, those are literally his thoughts inside. He's not saying those things out loud. I just can't, like, the fact that this, I have the exact quote. It says, you can't fall in love with me. She slowly walks inside, avoiding my gaze as she watches her feet with each step. They're the saddest steps I've ever taken. I close the door. It's the saddest door I've ever had to close. What the fuck? And the fact that she's like, oh my god, I'm staring at his crotch in the present. Like, this is so awful. I can't, like, this is my first ever Colleen Hoover book, and I was expecting it to at least have some sort of writing that is making everybody feral for this woman's books. This is it? That's it? That's what's selling more copies than the Bible? My god, the Bible's better written than this. And he tells her, hey, by the way, I don't normally drink. That one night was an exception, just FYI. And she's like, is the exception because of what happened with Rachel? And he says, yes. Yeah, he just happened to be drunk that day of all days that Tate showed up. Okay, anyway, he is really awkward and stilted towards her, and it says, I can't tell what just happened. Did I embarrass him, piss him off, make him sad? Man, he is a stranger. Let it go. Back in the past, we're in chapter 6 years ago. It's consuming me. My thoughts aren't my thoughts anymore. My thoughts are Rachel. I can't fall in love with you, Rachel. I look at the sink. I want to look at Rachel. I breathe in air. I want to breathe in Rachel. I close my eyes. I only see Rachel. I wash my hands. I want to touch Rachel. The fact that my name is in this book so many times is violence against me. This is harassment. I'm filing a restraining order. So he asks Rachel, oh my god, I wish she had any other name. Literally any other fucking name would have been better. How long have our parents been seeing each other? And she says, about a year. It's been long distance until she moved us here to be closer to him. I feel my mother's heart breaking. We hate him. A year, I ask? Are you sure? She nods. She doesn't know about my mother, I can tell. So he's under the impression that his dad was cheating. Now, this is completely unimportant. It's completely, like, it doesn't affect, he doesn't have any sort of relationship with his dad for this to, like, affect anything that's going to be seen by the reader. They're like, we can't do anything, but we can. And so they make out. When my lips touch hers, it's so many things. It's good and bad and right and wrong and revenge. Wow, how very descriptive, Colleen. Thank you for that. Our tongues touch and our guilt intertwines, and my fingers slide through the hair God made specifically for her. My new favorite flavor is Rachel. My new favorite thing is Rachel. I want Rachel for my birthday. I want Rachel for Christmas. I want Rachel for graduation. Rachel, Rachel, Rachel. I'm gonna fall in love with you anyway, Rachel. The back door opens. I release Rachel. Oh my god, I don't want my name to be in here anymore. My name must be in this book 450 times. I didn't look it up. I'm just guessing. Probably 450 times. Back in the present, Tate, our main character, did you forget that her name was Tate? And because it's not Rachel, the other girl that he fucked, who's his stepsister, by the way. Yeah, he ends up fucking his stepsister. Isn't that great for me? His stepsister, Rachel. I'm so happy to be here, y'all. Anyway, she sees, Tate sees Miles, and he's casually dressed in a baseball cap, jeans, and a 49ers t-shirt. I think that's why I find him so hard to look away from, though, because I've always found guys more attractive when they put less effort into trying to appear attractive. Wow, thank you for putting attractive in the same sentence, Colleen. Twice. That's so great, Colleen. I'm really happy about this, Colleen. I really love the redundancy, Colleen. See how it's annoying when you hear the same thing over and over and over? By the way, we're 20% in, and in the present, we have not left the apartment complex. We are 20% in to a full-length book, and we have not left the apartment complex. And so I started trying to see what other people were seeing in this book. Now, I'm not making fun of you if you like it. I'm just confused by it. So genuinely, I am confused. I just want to make that clear. I'm not making fun of anybody. Now, Kindle, when you read a book, underlines other things for you and says, a billion other people have underlined this line. So I came across one of these lines while I was reading the Kindle version, and it says, that's how it is when a person develops an attraction towards someone. He's nowhere, then suddenly he's everywhere, whether you want him to be or not. Why is this underlined? Yeah, that's like the car effect. You hear about a car and then all of a sudden you're seeing that car everywhere. It's like Ford Focus. Have you ever, back in the day, like 2003 when Ford Focus came out, and it was like, my gosh, I'm seeing that car everywhere, and the reason you're seeing it everywhere is because it was pointed out to you in a commercial once. It's not that important. Like, this is not like, wow, how profound, Colleen. What the fuck? Why is this selling more copies than the Bible? So they're having a really awkward elevator ride, and then they're having a really awkward car ride because they're about to go spend Thanksgiving together with her family. Her brother, and Miles are in the car going to her family's house for Thanksgiving. The second I look in the mirror again, so does he. I look back down. Shit, this drive is about to be the longest drive of my life. I make it 3 minutes, then I look again. Shit, so does he. Then she moves up her foot, and it says, holy hell, his thumb just moved, deliberately moved, stroking the inside of my foot. So back in the past, he's like, you know what? It'll be easy to stop fooling around with my stepsister. It won't be a problem. And they're like, do you think that, I mean, they're not technically step siblings yet. They're just all living together. And they're like, okay, well, do you think that our parents are gonna get married? Yeah, probably. Yeah, you should probably stop kissing your stepsister now. Future stepsister. Whatever. Semantics. And they haven't moved in together yet at this point. That's right. And she's like, well, we're moving in with you in 2 weeks. And he's like, she's moving in with me. She'll be in my house. Yes. That gives you 2 weeks to stop trying to fuck your stepsister. Please stop trying to fuck your stepsister. I am begging you, especially because my name is attached to her. And he's like, I don't want to fall in love with you, Rachel. Okay, you can stop thinking these inside thoughts to yourself at her. You can stop saying her name. You could just be a normal kid. Stop trying to fuck your stepsister. And she's like, I want to ask you a million college. What? God, I'm tired. I want to ask you a million questions. You guys haven't talked? You guys haven't had a conversation and you think you're in love with her? Are you okay? So he's like, where are you going to college? Where are you going to college? So they're finally having a conversation where they're talking, but apparently these are step siblings that are already in love with each other, even though they don't know anything about each other. And she's like, oh, I'm going to college in Michigan. And he's like, all right, here's the idea. We are graduating in 7 months. All we have to do is only fool around for 7 months. And then we don't tell anybody. It'll be totally fine. And then we'll just cut it off after 7 months. Now, I'll be honest, this does sound like a plan that teenagers would make, honestly. And she's like, yeah, 7 months and then we stop. We've got this. She's like, yes, we've got this. And he's like, I'm gonna love you for 7 months, Rachel. I'm going to call the police. Back in the present, they are at her parents' house eating Thanksgiving dinner, and Miles cuts himself accidentally, and he's like, I don't want to go to the ER, can you just stitch it? You're a nurse, aren't you? And she's like, I don't have the supplies to do that. We are literally just at my parents' house. I need sutures. It's deep and that's gonna hurt like hell. And he's like, I can handle it. He laughs as if he knows pain, and to him this isn't pain. I pierce his skin with the needle and he doesn't even flinch. He doesn't even make a sound. And it's like, okay, we get it. He's stoic because toxic masculinity is hot, according to Colleen Hoover. And he touches her knee and says, this is deliberate. This touch isn't an accidental grace. He's touching me because he wants to be touching me. His fingers trail around my knee and his hand slips to the back of my leg. He lays his forehead against my shoulder with a sigh and he squeezes my leg with his hand. I'm trying to imagine this and it's very weird. His hand slowly begins to slide up the back of my leg, all the way up my thigh, around to my hip and to my waist. I feel like I'm about to die and there isn't a damn thing in that first aid kit that could save me. Bitch, same. He kisses her and then he's like, oh my god, I have to stop. And he tells her, don't let me do that again. Ah, yes, because definitely she's going to be in charge of what you, a grown man, are doing. Certainly. And if it does happen again, it'll be her fault, right? Because you told her not to let you. That's how that works.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
But she doesn't think these, logical things. She thinks, don't let me do that again. I couldn't stop him if I wanted to. I want that so much, I don't even want to eat. And he probably doesn't realize how much I love Thanksgiving dinner, which means I want that a lot. And that isn't referring to the plate of food in front of me. We know, Colleen, your audience isn't stupid. You didn't have to do all that. You didn't have to spell this out. That's why this book is 9-hour audiobook, by the way, because she spells everything out like that, like she just did right there, like I'm doing right now. You see how it's unnecessary? Her mother turns to Miles and says, hey Miles, do you have a girlfriend? He says, no. Mom's like, oh, you're gay. And the dad is like, no, he's not, as if he's offended by the idea that this masculine man would be gay. Oh, how gross. So that's fun. And Corbin's like, wait, you're not gay? I've been thinking you're gay this whole time. You guys are friends and you don't know if your friend is gay or not? What do you talk about? Corbin, I'm not gay. I've never been gay and I'm pretty sure I never will be. What the hell, man? Why are you so upset over being called gay? Not the homophobia. And it's because he's never had sex with anybody anybody. He's never had a girlfriend in 6 years. What happened 6 years ago? Rachel, his stepsister, he was fucking. And she's like, that's so weird. Everyone wants love, or at least sex. It's human nature. And then she says to herself, I can't believe we're having this conversation. Me neither, because first of all, you're wrong. Aromantic folks exist. Not everybody wants sex. Asexual folks exist. I'm sure that's news to Colleen. And she's like, so which of the two of those do you not want, Miles? Love or sex? And he looks at her and he says, I think you know the answer to that, Tate, which is kind of a really dick move. You could just say, I'm not interested in romance. I am only interested in sex. And so she says to him, okay, how long has it been since you kissed somebody? He's like, well, 8 hours ago, you. And she's like, for that. He says, 6 years. She's like, how long since you had sex with somebody? 6 years. Obviously. I mean, obviously. And she says, what's your deal then? You have STDs? Ma'am, you're a nurse. Stop. And he's like, no, I just don't want to like you. And he's like, I'm attracted to you. I want you, but I want you without any of that other stuff. It says, I have no thoughts left. Brain equals liquid. Heart equals butter. Brain equals liquid. Heart equals butter. Brain equals liquid. Heart equals butter. This is selling more copies than the Bible. The Bible? Stop. So they're talking and they say, our conversations are so weird. And he laughs and says, yes. And bitch, you know what? I agree, because they were written that way. They were written weird as hell for no fucking reason. And she's obsessed with every word that comes out of his mouth, and I'm so serious. He says nothing, like the juice line, and she's like, that is the best line I've ever heard. And I am not being hyperbolic. She says that's the best thing I've ever heard. That's my new favorite word. So she's like, I tried to think of a word I hate. I kind of hate the word ox. It's an ugly word, too short and clipped. I wonder if his voice could make me love that word. Say the word ox. His eyebrows rise like he's wondering if he heard me right. He thinks I'm weird. I don't care. Just say it. I tell him, ox, he says with slight hesitation. And of course it's the best word she's ever heard because he said it. She's annoyed that he is attracted to her but doesn't want to date her. You don't want to be attracted to me, but you are. You want to have sex with me, but you don't want to date me. You also don't want to love me. You also don't want me to want to love you. They're having this conversation in her parents' kitchen. Then they start to make out. And then somebody, her dad, walks up and says, well, you're definitely not gay. And he's like, okay, well, that's awkward. Would it help if we had rules? And I'm like, no, it wouldn't help me, the reader. So he makes rules for her. Don't ask about my past and never expect a future. Those are the rules. She says to him, well, I only have one rule. He waits for my rule. I can't think of a rule. I don't have any rules. Why don't I have rules? He's still waiting. I don't know what it is yet, but when I think of it, you have to follow it. So you don't have a rule then? You are so stupid. You are in charge of people's medical care. You're getting a master's degree and you're really fucking stupid. Back in the past, Miles and Rachel are also making rules. Their rule is maybe we shouldn't have sex. So they don't have sex yet. Sex will make it that much harder when our time is up. You know that. So their plan is to make out with each other for 7 months. Okay. And he's like, she's right. She's also completely wrong, but I have a feeling she'll figure that out later. She's wrong and she's right. And you're hoping she'll change her mind. Okay, sure. In the present, Tate thinks if I had a superpower, it would be infiltration. I would infiltrate his mind so I could see every single one of his thoughts. I would infiltrate his heart and spread myself around like a virus. I would call myself the infiltrator. More copies than the Bible. They're in the car with her brother again, going back home, and her brother is annoying her, and it says, if I wish I were in high school again so I could call him a butthole. Adults don't call their brothers buttholes though. Great. So his superpower, according to her, is he's invading her thoughts. So he's the invader and she's the infiltrator. These are actual lines that she thinks to herself. He touches her gently and it says, like he knows he's made of lava. I am not trying to be mean here, but when you read like 125 books a year, you notice a lot of different kinds of prose. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that this is the most ridiculous prose, the most ridiculous writing. You couldn't think of a better way to state the sentence, he touches her gently like he knows he's made of lava. It's like something you write when you are 11. Back in the car, she's still on the fucking superhero shit, and she's like, oh, you fly. And to her brother, the pilot, Miles is also a pilot. It doesn't come up much. Nothing comes up much other than, the terrible introspective thoughts and the word Rachel. Kill me. And her brother's like, oh, I do fly now. I guess that makes me a superhero. And she's like, when you're up in the sky, do you ever look around? And he's like, no, I'm busy working. And Miles goes, I look. Wow, how profound. He's so deep. Rachel and Miles' parents in the past leave for the weekend, so they play house and they tell each other that they love each other. And then they have sex, which I will say, thank God, it is entirely fade to black. They decide, okay, we will just wait until we graduate, and then we'll tell our parents that we are a couple. Present day, Tate is already falling in love, and all that's happened is that they have agreed to no strings attached sex. Nothing has happened. These people barely know each other. Miles stole her phone number out of her brother's phone, and it says, I shit you not, her inner monologue says, Nana nana boo boo, he stole my number.
Hello, darkness.
More copies than the Bible. This is a crime. Feels like, again, a romance written by a robot about what the robot thinks that humans think like. When they get back from Thanksgiving, they decide to fuck. And it says, it's the best thing I've ever felt. And then he didn't make eye contact during, but then she still thinks to herself that she never wants to do this with anyone else. Ma'am, it's been one time. The dick cannot be that good. They go to a store together to buy curtains and rugs for his unadorned apartment, and he buys a homeless man a blanket. Wow, what a man, doing the bare minimum. Of course she's in love. The dick is the greatest dick to ever dick, and he bought a homeless man a blanket. Oh my god. I mean, snatch him up before I do. This note just says, how many times is the word Rachel used in this goddamn book? I don't know, bitch. Past Rachel, and I'm not looking it up. Back in the past, Miles says, when my mom died, I stopped believing in God, but then I met you, and I know now that God gives us the ugliness so we don't take the beautiful things for granted. And she answers him by saying she's late. Not for school, because remember, they are still in high school. No, for her period. Back in the present, again in the present, they're out at dinner. It's Ian, Corbin, her, and Miles. Remember, Ian is his friend from high school. Who knows about Rachel? Every single thing that Miles says to her is the best thing she's ever heard in her life. Even just saying the words, you look pretty. She's like, oh my god, me and my Minnie Mouse scrubs? No way. No, that actually happened. I'm not being hyperbolic. The Minnie Mouse scrubs thing actually happened. Oh, the note I wrote at this point, because I was actively writing my notes, says, I bet you he was drunk because it was the anniversary of Rachel's abortion or something. Oh man, if only past me knew. They start talking about Miles' relationship status, and he tells her brother, relationships aren't worth the end result for me. Wow, did you really need to say that in front of the girl you're fucking? That was rude. You didn't need to say this at all. You've never told him about your relationship status before, and now you're telling him in front of the girl you're fucking, which happens to be his sister. You're a dick. They have sex in the car after this, and they're like, this is the craziest thing we've ever done. Oh my god, car sex? And I'm like, wait, you guys are 23. Car sex is some high school shit. You don't have anywhere else to have sex in high school. You're having sex in the car. This is the wildest you've gotten? Alright. So they have a competition to see who loses the battle, like to be noisy first during sex, but the person who really loses in this situation is me, having to experience this.
Hello, darkness.
In the past, Miles and Rachel, they have her take a pregnancy test. They're pregnant. Yay! By the way, their parents did get married. He's like, we're gonna keep the baby, and he has all this paperwork on like campus childcare and shit. So, and he's like, we got this, Rachel, because that's him and his stepsister's motto. His stepsister that he's fucking. At Corbin and Tate's apartment, everybody hates Dylan because Dylan is married, but he flirts with Tate. They hate him because he's villainized, and it's very, very stupid. Ian can tell that that Tate and Miles are fucking, because of course he can. He's been friends with him forever. Tate could just ask Ian questions about Miles, but nope, she doesn't. She avoids that. She is talking to Miles, and he's like, you haven't had a day off since Thanksgiving. He's like, I think you're so tired. I want you to have rest. And she says, I never knew thoughtfulness could be such a turn on. My good bitch, who the fuck have you dated before that has been doing such not even bare minimum shit to not even think, hey, you might be tired from not having a day off? Who have you been fucking prior to this that hasn't been doing that bare minimum shit for you? Good grief. But he doesn't actually send her home to sleep. He ends up finger fucking her. Great. She then goes home, but then her brother's in the shower. And then she goes back to Miles because he didn't finish because they were trying to hurry up. So he like finger fucked her and she left. But then she's like, my brother's in the shower. Let me go back and fuck Miles. So they start to fuck on his table. And he says he needs a condom. She says, I'm on the pill. He gets like weirdly emotional about this and then says, brace yourself. Sir, are we at sea? Should I also batten down the hatches? Is your dick really that big? Afterwards, it was too much of an emotional connection, apparently, having, going without a condom. And so he leaves and slams the door, and she immediately starts crying and thinks, this feels like an end. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why? Because you boned without a condom? I'm so confused. 6 years ago, Rachel does not have an abortion. Rachel's still pregnant. She's 3 months along, and he says, you're doing such a good job growing him. I'm pretty sure you're gonna grow the best baby any woman has ever grown. Wow, Colleen, so poetic. And no, by the way, they still haven't told their parents who are married. Her brother's gone in the present. Miles is off work. He leaves a note on her door. Mind you, remember, he fucked her and left. He leaves a note on her door saying, I'm gonna do errands. I'll come by at 7 if you want to go with me. Why didn't he just text this? Beats me. Drama, I guess. He comes by right at 7 p.m. on the dot. No emotional intelligence, but damn if he isn't punctual. And it says, his punctuality pisses me off. I have a feeling everything he's going to do tonight will piss me off. off. Bitch, same, but that's kind of how the whole book has been going for me. So, you know, personally, that's what my whole experience is. He's like, Tate, I'm sorry, you didn't deserve that. I still don't know what he's apologizing for specifically, but it doesn't matter because it sounds like he's saying sorry for all of it. Actually, bitch, it does matter. It does matter that you communicate exactly what you're sorry for. If a man says to you, I'm sorry, and you say for what, and he says, I don't know, he's hoping that you won't ask him to get specific. Don't let him weaponize his incompetence. He's an adult. He knows how to speak. He just doesn't want to. You're just not worth it to him. They go to his car, which she describes as understated, just like his apartment. I'm like, oh, you mean just like the prose of this book? Great. He reminds her of his rules, which I will say those are his boundaries. And he's like, you're breaking both of the rules. And she's like, well, yeah, asking about the past and imagining a future is what normal people do. And I don't like how she set them both up for failure. I don't like this. She agreed out loud to his rules, but then internally did not. Those are his boundaries, and she's now trying to get him to change them, which is something she's been hoping from the beginning. That's rude. And framing it as, well, you're just abnormal, you should change your rules, is kind of sickening. Either admit you want me for more than just sex or take me home. Ew, no, he doesn't want you for more than just sex. He doesn't. And he said that he did not want to from the beginning. He communicated that very clearly to you. Both of these people suck. She tells Elevator Guy, remember him? He comes up once in a while, whenever Colleen needs him. His name's Cap. He's an old guy. I was being delusional. I told myself I could handle it if he never wanted more. I guess I thought if I let him take his time, he'd eventually come around. Bitch, those are two very different things. And the latter isn't fair to Miles. It's either I told myself I could handle it if he never wanted more, or I thought if he took his time, he'd come around. Those are different things, and yet you're saying them right next to each other. The latter, again, is not fair to Miles, who, again, communicated very specifically what he was trying to bring to the table, and you agreed to that setup. And to cheer her up, Elevator Guy Cap tells her the interrupting cow knock-knock joke, because this prose is just exquisite. In the past, Rachel and Miles' parents officially eloped. They tell their parents that they're pregnant, and they're mad. His dad punches Miles, shoves him, tells him to get out of the house. Miles ends up back at the house anyway and ends up in Rachel's room, and they say they love each other. Tate's friend Chad comes over. Did you know she had a friend Chad? Me neither. He only appears for one scene. He's from her study group that, again, we've never seen. We're at 50% through this book. Miles sees Chad going into Tate's apartment and into her room. Uh-oh, Chad only entered the story to make Miles regret not locking Tate down. Chad leaves. Who comes over? Miles. Who was that? He asks. You were studying for 3 hours? He grabs her face, which, no, and says, are you sleeping with him? Have you kissed him? Sir, I was just advocating for your boundaries, and now you are not advocating for somebody else's, and I don't like this. Don't make me defend either of you when both of you are so shitty. He says to her, make me leave. You don't need this. Tell me to go and I'll go. See, now Miles is really starting to fucking piss me off, because again, this is him putting the responsibility for his actions on her. No. And he's like, reaffirms, I can't give you more than this. And she thinks, I'm attempting to convince myself that what he's giving me is so much more than what it is. Both of you are so fucking disgustingly unfair to each other. So they fuck, and he goes to leave her bedroom after, and her brother got home early, and now he knows that they're fucking. And Corbin is disappointed. And he asks Miles, do you plan to love my sister? And Miles says, no. I knew his answer, expected it. It still hurts like hell. The fact that he can't even lie about it so he doesn't disappoint Corbin proves this shit isn't some game he's playing. Why would it be a game? Corbin says, get out. Miles leaves. Corbin says, you're not a brother, Tate. You don't get to tell me not to be pissed. I do actually, because plain and simple, this is misogyny. She goes back over to Miles and she's like, if you can do simple, I can do simple. And she's lying to herself again. She gives a new rule though, don't give me any false hope. But what false hope means to Tate is not what false hope means to Miles. See, they never communicate any explicit boundaries. In the past, Miles and Rachel, his stepsister, graduate. They get approved for family housing at college. They tell their parents that they're moving out, and everything's looking up, except you know the shoe is, it's gonna drop. It's coming. What actually happens was not what I was expecting to happen. I'll get there. Miles actually asks a personal question about our main character Tate. I know, we're only 60% through the book at this point. Who could have guessed that would happen? And he's like, why is your name Tate? And she's like, oh, that's my middle name. My name's actually Elizabeth, middle name Tate. He says her full name, and as usual, she's like, that's the best thing I've ever heard. Bitch, he could recite his middle school geography homework to you, and you would say it's the best thing you've ever heard. Shut the literal hell up. The bar is in hell. By the way, his middle name is Mikkel, not Michael, Mikkel. He has to go to work. Remember, he's a pilot? Me neither. He comes back and he's like, I don't really like working. I'd rather be here where you are. And she's like thinking, oh, he's giving me hope. And then he makes eye contact during sex and and she decides that the meaning of these things is hope. Her brother hates that they are having sex. She argues with her brother, calls him a hypocrite. She's like, you sleep with girls who have brothers who probably want to hate you. And this feels so trite. Like, wow, yay, you really told that misogynist. She says, Miles has been nothing but honest about what he wants from me. And I'm like, yeah, and then you still hold it against him. Okay, you're still hoping that he will break his own boundaries instead of you being a good person and respecting them. She asks elevator guy Cap, what would make a man not want to love? That's actually not your business. You barely know him. Miles has boundaries, and if you need to work this out, get a therapist instead of talking to a guy who you both interact with. Like, this is really inappropriate for you to ask like a mutual person about him. Inappropriate. Door guy says, I guess if a man lived through the ugliest side of love, he might not want to experience it again. Wow. Profound. Poetry. Beautiful. I contemplate his answer, but I don't see how love could get ugly enough for a person to shut themselves off from it completely. Are you stupid? You really can't think of any scenario? You're a nurse. You haven't seen some shit? Back in the past, Rachel and Miles have moved in together, and one night is like, she's like, Miles, it hurts. She's in labor. That's how Colleen decided to write Rachel going into labor, saying it hurts. They go to the hospital, she has the baby, everything's fine. It's a boy. Congratulations. He named him Clayton after the name of the teacher whose class he walked her to on the first day that they met. In the present, there's a plane crash. Tate's mom calls. She thinks it's her brother. Miles gets home from work. He makes some calls. He finds out Corbin is fine. Literally nothing happened. She notices, wait, he didn't call anyone to let them know that he was fine. Oh gosh. Yeah, no shit. Didn't he spend Thanksgiving with your family? Obviously he doesn't have very many people in his life. You haven't figured that out yet. She tells him that all of his failures are sexy, and he tells her he used to be a really bad kisser, like failing at kissing, and he shows her how bad.
Hello, darkness.
I don't need to be here for this. Then she gets mad that they're having fun together because it's too intimate for her to be having fun with him without him wanting to date her, I guess. I'm mad that she thinks that this conversation is fun, personally. Anyways, they fall asleep next to each other. Yay. His dad actually does call him to check in. She hears this and is like, he hides so much from me. Bitch, yeah, duh. He told you this. 6 years ago, their baby is about to go get a circumcision, okay? He says, this is so fun. This is where the book starts to really, you think I'm bad before? You think I'm mad? Now I'm getting really mad. He says, I'm so sorry, Clayton. I know it's emasculating, but you'll thank me when you're older and getting involved with girls.
Hello, darkness.
I don't want to hear shit about the LGBT community sexualizing children when y'all who are straight say and read the weirdest shit and do not bat an eye. Shit that is said to day-old infants. Shut the fuck up forever. And 18-year-old Miles also is looking at the titties of and wants to make out with the stepsister who just had his baby. Miles' dad shows up to the hospital and says he's proud of Miles and explains, by the way, I didn't cheat on your mom. Your mom and I separated. We just didn't want to tell you. Tate and Miles go to their apartment, pool that apparently exists. We had no idea up to this point. She starts asking him personal questions. He gets frustrated and she starts to cry. She set herself up for this failure. I don't feel bad for you. He asks her, are you still doing this, as in fucking, because you think I'll change my mind? And she thinks to herself, that's the only reason she's still doing it. Gross. Gross. That's manipulative. If I were capable of loving somebody, it would be you. And he's like, but if it's too difficult for you to do this, and she's like, it's not. Liar. You're a liar. In the present, Tate is making moves to move out of her brother's apartment. Miles comes back from piloting planes and accidentally almost insinuates, not even says, but like almost insinuates that he might have missed her. And he immediately, you can tell, regrets saying this. And she thinks to herself again, I'd been holding out hope that if I just take it slow with him, he'll break through whatever is holding him back. But then I realize it's me who can't handle it. You just realized that? I think you've realized that several times now. You are just really hoping that somebody will go back on their explicitly stated boundaries. So she gets mad and she starts asking him pointed personal questions like, what did Rachel do to you? And he says, go home, Tate. And she says, fuck you. And he says, that's what we've been doing, Tate. Fucking. I've made that clear from day one. And you know what? He's right. And she says, there's a huge difference between fucking and making love, and you've been making love to me. Bitch, you cannot just decide that for another person. Miles and Rachel are in the car. They're happy. They love their baby. They're so happy. They're finally on their way home. And it says the line that this book is famous for, which is the only thing I knew about this book going into it, which is they're laughing because they, you know, their son, they're like, oh, his testicles are so huge. And it says, we both laugh at our son's big balls. We both laugh at our son's big balls. But I can't focus on that because I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. And it does immediately. It happens immediately after my laughing at our son's big balls. Immediately. Not the next chapter. The other shoe drops. So I can't make a ball joke here because I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop or the other ball to drop. Whatever ball related joke you want me to make here. Ball's in your court. They're in traffic and I know something is going to happen. They get in a car accident. It all happens very quickly because this writing is very choppy. They're in traffic. His life is flashing before his eyes. They're in water. He tells her to get out. She's demanding, get the baby out. He's like, I can get you both out. The water gets in the car. He lost the baby. And now Rachel hates him. And again, on behalf of the delegation of Rachel's, please get fucked. I hate this. I have a lot of trauma connected to the birth of my second kid, and this was extremely uncomfortable for me to read. And the fact that her name is Rachel. If I wasn't on Zoom reading this with my friends, I probably wouldn't have handled it as well as I did. And not because I'm like, wow, this writing is so emotional, but because this was triggering in like a fuck you Colleen kind of way. In the present, Tate and Miles have a really uncomfortable, the book calls it ugly, sex scene where he calls her Rachel and she like keeps going on to have sex with him even after he called her Rachel and he's not drunk. In the past, 4 weeks after their baby dying, Rachel asks Miles to make love to her and it's uncomfortable. Right after this, she leaves him a note saying, I can't do this. Her and her mom leave Miles and his dad and move back to Phoenix. And he says, I'll never let myself love again, Rachel. Never. Promise? Tate moves out of her brother's apartment and thus is no longer Miles's neighbor / fuck buddy. She thinks to herself, obviously, all of these emotions I saw behind his eyes were figments of my imagination. And I'm like, yeah, no shit, bitch. We have known that. We knew that. Thank you for letting us know that you're finally with the class. She goes to say goodbye to him, and now we switch to present day Miles's POV for the first time, and I hate it. He's like, I can't do it, Tate. And Tate leaves crying. Ian, his friend, calls him an idiot, and Corbin, her brother, punches him in the face, which, God, I wish that were me. And Ian's like, you're stupid. If you could erase all the ugly that happened in your life, but keep the good, would you do it? Ian chastises him, the elevator guy chastises him, and they all tell him to go talk to Rachel. The next POV is Rachel, God help me. She's at her home with her husband, Brad. She sees Miles, and he's at her house. She sees how sad his smile is, and it says it's not the smile she remembers, and she wonders if she did that to him. She wonders if she did that to him. I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about what I did to him. What she did to him. Justice for Rachel's on behalf of the delegation. She can tell he's in love with someone. She tells him, you've got this. Look, I have a new baby. And he's like, that's Clayton's sibling. And he's like, it feels good to see you happy. They say they're proud of each other, and he's cured of his sads. 2 weeks later, Miles is in front of Tate's new apartment waiting for her. He tells her, I miss you. And it says, I miss you are my new favorite words. Of course they are. Of course it is. He proposes a few months later. In the epilogue, they're married and they have a baby. And they name her Sam after the elevator guy. Did she get her master's degree? I don't know. If it mentioned it, it went right over my head because her being a nurse, her being a person was not important. I have no idea because it wasn't important to the story. Nothing was important to the story. It's fine because everything's fixed now. Miles is fixed now. We did it, Joe. I cannot. This entire book could have been just Miles emailing Rachel and being like, hey, are you good? Because I feel bad about what happened. And her being like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm married. I'm living in Phoenix with my husband and our new baby. Thanks for looking in. Get some therapy. The end. Instead, I had to suffer. So I hate this. Colleen Hoover and I are enemies. We are enemies. We are foes. I am disgusted. I'm disgusted by the way that she wrote grieving a dead child and then the mother of that dead baby saying what I did to Miles. Rachel did that to Miles. Rachel ruined Miles and poor Tate had to deal with it. I just am disgusted, and the fact that it's my name attached to it made it a little more traumatic for me, which I realize is a me thing. It's not like Colleen Hoover actually did that to me personally, but my God, did I take it that way. I just have way too much trauma connected to that, and I don't want to. I don't want to deal with it. So no. Haha, no. Okay, well, this was so much fun. I'm so glad that we did this. Colleen, you for prison 2024. So that's it. That was Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, and boy was it ugly. All right, thanks for watching. Leave your comments and questions down below. Thanks so much for this. Let me know which Colleen Hoover book dealt several psyche damage points to you, and if you would like me to read a different one, because I'm willing to suffer for the cause, I suppose. But my God, Colleen, prison immediately. So let me know what your least favorite Colleen Hoover book is, okay? Thanks for watching. Comments and questions down below. See you next time. Bye. All right, I am here to say thank you for being a friend to my Therapy Bills patrons, and those are Alexander, Cami, Chris, Christine and Bean, DJ Rocktopus, Ellie, Aaron with 2 E's, Eric, JC Murphy, Jack, Jesse, Jill, John E, Julie D, Kellano K, Casey McKenzie, Kate W, Caitlin M, Quinn, Lady Kittybug, Lemon Jelly, Lex, Mixer Boneless, Night Owl Reader, Alice, Rachel C, Rain, Reese, SJ, Samar, Scarlett, Shadow Auntie, hi Peggy, Shiny, SMK, Steph Bowen, 2 Orbit, Chai Guy, and the Salem T. Lynn. Thank you all so much for being a friend and being patient as I created this. I appreciate y'all. Thank you again. Okay, bye. And before I go to say thank you for being a friend to my Potato Search Marxist patrons, and those are Alicia, Amanda, Andy, Angelica, Angry Otter, Anita, Artie the Ninth, Ashley H, Ava, Ballads and Bookends, Beck Lowe, Blake Lemon Pants, Blythe, Bookish Bats, Bookish Brainrot, Bree, Caitlin, Cardinal Ginger, Carlin, Casper, Catherine, Kathy, Chris, CJ, Clementine, Cole, Colleen, Corwin, Danielle, Darren, Deborah, Diet Goth, Dorothea, Ebby, Ember, Emerald Dodge, Emily A, Emily L, Emma, Aaron, Ezra Moon, Fiona, Hannah C, Harpy Kuro, Haley G, Ilianaka, India Inks, JM Tennant, Jay is on Olympus, Jelly V, Jen Michelle, Gender Queer, Jenny G, Jillian R, Jojo Bookish, Just Pugsley, Kat, Catherine, Katie L, Kayala, Kendra, Kiara, Kylie, Laughing Cat Dog, Laura G, Lauren G, Lazarus Ray, Library of Scars, Lisa B, Lisa L, LP, Lou Siri, Lustful Octopus, MK Martin, MV Marlowe, Madison, Man Eating Plant, Marcella, Marquita, Malara, MK Books, Molly, James, Nat, Natalie M, Never, Nicole G, Nicole R, Nyan Binary, Paige P, Penny Chilling, Foxglove, Rachel B, Reba, Rebecca, Rivi D, Rosie, Rowan, Secoria, Sadie, Samantha M, Samantha O, Sarah C, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Sarah Z, Shamed, Shannon, Sheen Onion, Sean T, Delegati, Talia, Real Dogs, Tina H, Toast, Trash Can Teddy, Tito Phoenix, Wiki Cherry, and Writer A. Thank you all so much for being a friend.